Alan Albert Funt was born in 1914. After acting as a wartime radio correspondent, he would begin his most lasting contribution to popular culture in 1947 with the premiere of Candid Microphone on the radio.
You got any folks in Texas now?
Yes. Mother and father and 2 brothers and sister.
When you were on the radio, did they hear you?
No.
Why don't they know?
Those stations don't get to Texas.
Well, how would you like to be on Coast to Coast?
Love it.
We do a show called The Candid Microphone. We do.
I hate you. I hate you.
The series would move to television in just a few short years, where it would shift to Candid Camera.
Did I tell you that this particular plate was made by the Candid Camera show?
Thank God.
And the most recent incarnation of Funt's original series debuted in 2014. And that's not counting an almost endless march of shows that have copied the format all over the world. Arguably, Funt made the embarrassment of real people in their everyday lives into acceptable popular entertainment.
Nothing means anything if all this means nothing. We don't know which way to go. So come with me and we will see a life beyond possibilities. A life beyond possibilities.
It was 1962 when the world saw the release of Mondo Cane. This was the beginning of Mondo Cinema, a subset of movies originating in Italy that paired urban legends and folktales with staged scenes to create a form of tabloid documentary. Also termed shockumentaries, the films did more to reveal society's prejudices than to show anything true or real about their subject matter. They often used the idea that they were just documenting our wild society to skirt decency laws and censorship boards around the world. Now, what brings Mondo Cinema up in a discussion of Alan Funt? Well, Funt was a very smart businessman. Mondo filmmakers had opened up a whole new profit center, one that Candid Camera was ideally suited to make use of. So it was that in 1970, the first of 2 Candid Camera movies hit theaters. Funt combined his usual hidden camera shtick with purported man-on-the-street interviews and the occasional staged sketch to explore the question of, what do you say to a naked lady? The clear explanation for why the film exists is an, if you'll excuse the expression, obviously naked cash grab. Fill your movie with nude women, and the tickets will fly out of the box office. And, like I said, Funt was a very smart businessman. But Funt wasn't only a smart businessman. It's worth noting that, in addition to producing one of the most successful hidden camera prank shows in the history of television, he had another particular interest. Funt taught psychology at Monterey Peninsula College and established a foundation to treat seriously ill patients with laughter therapy. So is it possible that Funt, in addition to being an entertainer in the tradition of the finest carnival barkers, was also one of the most prolific psychological researchers of the modern world? I mean, let's be blunt here, that would also make him one of the most unethical researchers, at least since the Milgram experiment. When you say you're filming a prank instead of a social experiment, you're not submitting your proposal to an institutional review board in advance. On the other hand, everybody who gets caught eventually signs a release, gets told what's happening, and that's not nothing, but we're getting far afield. Now that we have a greater appreciation of Funt as a serious artist with serious concerns, let's take a look at What Do You Say to a Naked Lady, because a lot of it is still relevant today.
You and I are in the movies right now. My name is Alan.
I didn't recognize you with that. You are terrible. Oh, I am sorry. I swore this would never happen to me. Oh, my
Come here now.
God.
Surely you're not more
I'm
embarrassed
looking at
about
you.
me than a naked man.
I am.
The film asks a lot of questions beyond the simple reactions of prank victims. Throughout the film, we watch vignettes that ask us to question the place of sexuality in our world, and some are still pressing issues for concern. Starting simply with situations where men are unexpectedly met with a naked woman, it moves on to cover some very sensitive topics. He captures men saying that they would feel freer to speak with a fully clothed woman on the streets with a camera crew if they weren't out with their wives at the moment. In one segment, he addresses the idea that some jobs come with a license to be handsy, which is then confirmed by a member of his screening audience. There's a problematically lighthearted segment on assault that still raises real concerns about rape culture decades before mainstream media started to treat it like a serious issue. He asks, is nudity always sexual? And some of his screening audience seems to think that yes it is.
What was the necessity of a woman going out, hanging and shaking all over?
Which one?
To stop the man to give her a hitch or in the cars, on the lawn? Oh, what is that for? Any man who cannot get a woman into his lap is no man. He doesn't have to go to the pictures to see it.
He also asks the question, how much are people actually educated about sex?
You might hear a college play, and one man says to the other, "Hey, buddy, let's go and matriculate." What would you think?
I think dirty.
You'd think dirty.
And then there's also the question, are men and women supposed to treat sex differently?
How many girls have you balled? Roughly. Guess.
Oh, about 25.
25. Would you be willing to tell me about how many boys you have known intimately since you were 17? Roughly.
Would I mind telling you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
And it all starts to feel very familiar, which is interesting and sad, given that this isn't even 50 years since the film premiered. We're still dealing with casual and not so casual racism and sexism. We're still seeing women treated as lesser because they've had previous sexual experience or exposure. And if anything, we're seeing it get worse. Sexual shaming in our culture is still treated as a powerful silencer, and the degree to which it is applied in the modern day can be intense. Any woman who has ever sent an intimate photo to a partner has had to ask themselves the question, what if this gets out online? Gamergate and its attempts to silence female voices in game development and criticism launched on the strength of leaked nude photos and videos that were used to suggest that sexual exposure inside of a relationship indicated a willingness to trade sex for positive reviews. And for women who have been public in their exposure of their sexuality, it's even worse. Remember that problematic section I discussed earlier? Well, the issue addressed in that segment hasn't gone away. But mainstream media has adjusted to a point where it isn't treated nearly as lightly. That's a form of progress. But while the mainstream has entered an era where the subject is treated as serious, we haven't been able to cure the underlying social disease of rape culture. We haven't been able to enter a world where a woman's body is truly her own and her decisions are hers to make. A toxic societal element still remains that sees the feminine body as property that must be controlled through shame and degradation. And that's what leads us to what is probably the most revolutionary segment in the film. It's a simple segment. Funt sets up to interview an actress about participating in one of the film's nude pranks.
Do you have any shots that show your figure?
Oh, completely nude?
Or partially, or anything? I'll tell you what. Would you go into the bedroom and get undressed and let me see your figure?
It's at this point that the scene could take a very dark turn, one that would be completely familiar even to modern audiences, but instead...
All right, now wait, just a second. Sit down for a second. I don't like to use people who will be doing this without being absolutely comfortable.
Funt stops the interview. He doesn't send the model next door to strip. He doesn't press the advantage of the situation. Instead, after a few more questions, he explains that she's already finished the scene they wanted her for, an illustration of what it's like to hire a nude model. That's it. Funt doesn't shame her for being willing to be nude. He doesn't treat her as unusual or disgusting. He doesn't even cut to his screening audience to show their reaction, and he doesn't treat her as sexually available. She's a potential cast member, nothing more. The discussion of nudity required for the role was simply business, and importantly, being willing to strip for the scene she was interviewing for did not mean she should be willing to be seen naked for a completely different hidden camera scene. We live in a world where the free expression of human sexuality, male or female, is enabled by a device that almost everyone carries in their own pocket or purse, and where the decision to publish or commercialize on that expression is as simple as deciding which website you're going to sign up for. But while the technology has evolved rapidly, our culture has stayed in the same place and may even have moved backwards. The entertainment industry still treats adult entertainers as verboten for mainstream work, and for public figures, the discovery of a history of sex work, or even consensual sex within a relationship, is reported as a series of salacious details with little attention paid to context. Which is why it's important now that we're willing to speak openly about this very issue. We need to step back for a moment, and we need to start looking realistically at who we are and what it means to be a human being merely existing, and what it means to make our choices. And we especially need to figure out what it means to respect other people's choices. In short, Alan Funt asked exactly the right question in 1970, what do you say to a naked lady?
When you start a song professionally, you should end it professionally. In the middle of the song, you're all slacking. And another thing, you're supposed to be moving back and forth. This is a very happy occasion, not a funeral.
Thanks for tuning into the video, guys. What do you think? What progress have we seen since 1970? And what still needs to be done? And importantly, for the subject of this channel, what did you think of this movie? You'll find an affiliate link below where you can purchase the movie, or it's available streaming on Prime right now. And if you enjoyed the show, click like, make sure you subscribe, and consider stopping by Ko-Fi or Patreon and helping to support more videos from the Film Optimist. Until next time, watch like it means something. And take care of yourself, because I'm not there to take care of you.
It's a very beautiful thing. This made the whole day worthwhile. I mean, watching it.